Welcome back to A Closer Look. In case you're just joining us, I am here with Jeff Fleming, the City of Kingsport City Manager. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Okay, so we were just touching the surface, and he's a font of information, so I don't even know where to begin, but I'll figure it out. But we were talking during the break about so many things,
Yep.
and I would like to touch back on some of those things we're talking about to get a clearer picture.
Yeah.
Kingsport. What's going on with Kingsport? You know, we want to grow.
Right.
And how can we do that?
Yep. So there's actually, there's Kingsport and then there's the region. And so we are a microcosm of the region, right? So we can't just operate independently and not be included in what's happening regionally. So the whole Tri-Cities region, including Southwest Virginia, is stressed for population growth. So we know it's a great place to live. We know we have many attributes like ETSU and commercial airport at Tri-Cities. We have Bristol Motor Speedway, Eastman. We have all these wonderful assets. But we've got to figure out where our place in the world is compared to, we don't need to be comparing each other between the Tri-Cities. We need to be comparing the Tri-Cities to Memphis or Norfolk or some other place outside this region. But at the end of the day, local politics are local politics. So you've got to figure out how we can brand ourselves and market ourselves regionally. But then when you come down to the actual decision, the local, whoever the local is, they have to make that decision. So for example, if you're going to land an industry in Phipps Bend, the Hawkins County Commission is going to have to make the decision about what the incentive package looks like, if there's tax abatement, those kinds of things. So the better we can align those visions, I think that's where we need to, if we could just get all of our arrows pointing in the right direction. I stole that from the DB athletic director. He said, we've got so many assets, we can just point them all in the same direction, and rather than being confusing, we can be much more effective.
Well, what's it going to take for us to do that?
Well, right now there is an effort that's underway to have a conversation with CEO level folks from around the region. Many of those same folks have been movers and shakers in the ballot health movement, as well as the now ETSU has a regional or has a local decision-making board. They don't have to go to the state anymore. They can make their own regional decisions. They're very autonomous. Never had that authority before. So if you can start to really align some of these things and not be clipped by Nashville or wherever else you have to go, you kind of can control your own destiny, if you will. Recently, actually many years ago, Kingsport, Bristol, and Sullivan County came together to form a partnership for economic development called Networks. Hawkins County had a resignation of an employee, and they said, rather than us hire another employee, why don't we just contract with Networks? So now we represent Hawkins County. So now it's Sullivan County and Hawkins County are in one economic development authority. Well, then Washington County, Tennessee, Carter County, and Unicoi County formed NetRep, which is Northeast Tennessee Regional Economic Development Partnership. And one of the big initiatives that they have right now is promoting their area, our area, as an outdoors destination. That's a big attractor for millennials. They don't want to just work in a plant somewhere. They want to know that they can live in an awesome place, and oh, by the way, they have a job. So the answer, in my opinion, is just getting all of these groups trying to move in the same direction and not being redundant in those resources.
I agree. From all I've been hearing, talking to people as we were discussing earlier, that's kind of what I'm hearing too.
Exactly.
And just trying to get those wills to all cooperate is the trick, and hopefully we can do that. Because my concern being in Kingsport as a resident is that we're so dependent on Eastman. What if something happened to Eastman? God forbid. But what if something happened to Eastman? That's where my fear is.
And that's not just Kingsport, that's the whole region.
Well,
I mean, if Eastman, Eastman goes, the whole region goes. So, I mean, Eastman pays well over 1/4% of all the property taxes in Sullivan County. They support Bristol schools, Sullivan County schools, Kingsport schools.
I want to stay strong.
Many Eastman employees live in Washington County and pay property taxes there. So, I mean, it's all bound together, and we have to figure out a way how to think regionally, but act locally to support that regional vision. It's the best way I can describe it. And it doesn't help in terms of complexity that you have a state line that divides the region as well. Because, you know, as much as we love our friends in Gate City and we celebrated their basketball victory and things like that, at the end of the day, they have a different tax structure, a different government, a different representation, you know, in all of their state politics, and it's just another level of complexity that we have to try to deal with, you know. So, but surely the way I look at it is, if you have those, there's got to be times when it's more advantageous to be in Virginia for certain businesses and in Tennessee for others. So rather than look at it as a challenge, how can we look at it as an opportunity?
All right, now, because I'd heard that we were kind of landlocked at one point, that we couldn't, for example, compete with having Amazon here because we just don't have the property for it. And you were saying that we have a lot of small parcels. So what could we do to really then expand if we've got this?
Right, so that's part of the challenge. We were just down in Nashville having the same conversation with the Economic Development Group, saying, hey, it seems like a lot of things are happening in Middle Tennessee, don't forget us. And they said, we don't ever forget y'all, but you have to have a site that is ready for development, that's graded, has access to infrastructure, has access to, you know, fire protection, water, sewer, all those things. Do you have those? And we have had an inventory of those, Phipps Bend being one of them. Well, Phipps Bend's almost sold out. You know, Gateway Commerce Park at the intersection of I-26 and I-81 is almost sold out. You know, we've pretty much kind of sold out the land that we have. So
they're sold out to businesses that are coming?
Yeah, they're sold out to businesses that are coming. Miyake just came here from Japan. We've had Borat forging, you know, down in Phipps Bend. So there's been lots of those things that have happened. But LG just went to Clarksville, and they did a 500-acre site. Well, we don't have a 500-acre site anywhere that would compete with that. But Clarksville, Montgomery County bought the land, prepared the land, graded the land, and gave it away for free to get LG there. So, but they never, without knowing that there was ever going to be an LG, they had to prepare in advance, not knowing what may or may not. It could have been like the West Tennessee mega site. The West Tennessee mega site has been prepared, but there's nobody there. And so now people start pointing fingers as to, wait a minute, you know, we spent all this money preparing, why is nobody there? So, you know, which comes first, the site or the prospect?
What about the Crossings?
Crossings is more of a retail site for the most part, and it's controlled mostly by Stuart Taylor, who's a private developer, and he's working every day to try to put together a project. Now, he's been focusing mostly on retail, and there's, you know, there's only so much retail capacity in the Tri-Cities market. We just got our sales tax figures, for example, and believe it or not, Kingsport's went up 4%, and Bristol's went down about 1%. And that includes through the Christmas holiday sales. But what happened in Bristol is they went up in double-digit percentages for a couple of years in a row, maybe 3 or 4 years in a row, but they've kind of plateaued. So, you know, in my opinion, you don't build your economy on retail. Retail is sort of a spinoff of that. So, you know, Stuart Taylor is working very hard to put together prospects for that location, but you know, you just pick up the paper and every single day you see inline retail stores that are closing or going bankrupt. Toys R Us was one that just happened recently because we're all buying online now. So the thing is, just about the time you get, you know, you think you have a strategy, the world changes and you have to innovate. I mean, when we've heard that from Eastman repeatedly. Business faces this every single day. They have to innovate, and we do too.
What's going on with like Lee Apartments and Cloud Apartments, just to change the
So
focus here?
So all the public housing units in Kingsport, the original ones were built at a time when you put the restroom on the top floor. There's not a restroom on the first floor, so they're not handicapped accessible. And the movement nationwide now is to get away from public housing and have public-private partnerships. And so we have now made a move to privatize all public housing in Kingsport. Lee Apartments has been completely vacated now, so there's no one living in those apartments. They're going to be razed completely, and then they will be replaced with units that are more similar to what you see in Riverview, right behind Eastman's headquarters. It's more, one-level, single-family type homes, maybe some duplexes, but it'll be a much less less density. So in order to do all that, you have to figure out how to help people that were living there that there's not going to be room for now, help them find alternative housing. So the Kingsport Housing and Redevelopment Authority has been working for well over a year to help people get vouchers so they can find alternate housing. And so then, because you can't just close it and say, I'm sorry, we can't help you, and because that would not be a compassionate thing to do. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to modernize housing.
What about this partnership you were saying, the
So there's
privatizing it?
Yeah, there's
How
a
does that
company
work?
called Penrose that's the local office is out of Chattanooga, but they're based out of Philadelphia. And so they basically buy up all this property, and they invest private money that's supplemented with grant money, public grant money, and then they manage these apartments. So it's not a department of the government anymore. It's like somebody that actually specializes in housing all over the place. And so hopefully it'll be a great benefit for our neighborhoods. We're looking forward to that, and folks have received it very well. And they couldn't continue the way they were. I mean, you can't have someone aging in the unit and the only restroom's upstairs and they can't climb the stairs. I mean, that doesn't work.
That's true.
Yeah. So,
okay, so it's an improvement.
Oh yeah,
It'd be
absolutely.
nice.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do with that is to make sure, we've invested a lot of money in things like Bays Mountain and the General Shell, the sports venue and event venue, the riverfront redevelopment, some things like that. But we wanted to be one Kingsport, which is all socioeconomic groups. So we didn't want to leave behind the public housing unit. So we wanted to make sure that everybody had a seat at the table.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Boy, I have to have you on again soon. We just
Absolutely.
scratched the surface.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with another thrilling episode.